The 2028 election seems like it will be a JD Vance versus Kamala Harris matchup given the primary polling data. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this, delving deep into elections in the United States. Looking at the primary polling for the 2028 primaries, JD Vance has a comfortable lead of 42% to Donald Trump Jr.'s 13%, with everybody trailing at third and behind, with Vance as the clear front runner. And usually candidates who poll above 50% in a primary, once they run for the election, tend to never end up losing the primary. In 2008, despite Hillary being the overwhelming favorite to win the Democratic nomination at the time, she never polled above 50% and still lost to Barack Obama despite polling in the very high 40s in that primary. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, has a much steeper path to the nomination as she's declined from the basically high 30s all the way down to the mid 20s, with Pete Buttigieg and AOC catching some national steam. As of right now, Harris is just at 24% in this polling average, giving her a slight lead nationally to become the Democrat nominee, just like she was back in the 2024 presidential election. My new election model helps me develop county-based modeling, which is far more accurate and sustainable than my previous modeling, which had certain state margins out of whack. And today, we're going to be going over what a hypothetical matchup I would believe would be between these two tickets. JD Vance will win the state of Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, all of Nebraska, except that 2nd congressional district, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, a bunch of the deep South, Indiana, West Virginia, and Missouri by over 12 percentage points, as well as the state of Alaska, which on the map shows up as a 13.8 percentage point win. It was about a 13.1 percentage point victory back in 2024 when Donald Trump won the state with 184,000 votes to Harris's 140,000 votes. Looking at some of the other safe states on the map, Iowa, Texas, and Florida are all above 12-point victories for JD Vance on the map. Looking at the state of Iowa, Vance wins it by 12.9% in this hypothetical matchup here. Looking at the county results, we can see that JD Vance does very well amongst the rural areas of the country and is performing extremely well in this part of the state. I mean, just in the rural areas in general, he's doing very, very well. He even manages to flip Black Hawk County into his column in this election, flipping it by 1.8% in his column, getting 36,000 votes in that county, exceeding Donald Trump's performance in that county this time around. However, in other places, like for example, Polk County, Harris outperforms very slightly from the last election. She also manages to do worse in Story County, and Dallas County even ends up being slightly closer than the last election. We also see some margins in like Johnson County. Harris did about a 38-point victory there, give or take. She only wins by 36. But overall, some of the rural areas probably tighten up. But overall, you see a very similar performance there. It's only like a 0.3 percentage point shift to the left in the state of Iowa, so it's not like this massive Democratic shift, but there's definitely some stagnation there, and Vance basically wins it by the same amount that Trump did, just a little bit less than before. Texas, on the other hand, ends up being a 16-point win for JD Vance this time around. If we go down to the state of Texas, we will see that JD Vance is performing extremely well in Tarrant County, Denton, and Collin, which are big suburban areas. He is winning Tarrant by almost 7 points here, and if we pull up Texas's county map on the New York Times, we will actually see that JD is outperforming very slightly in Tarrant County, he's getting about 451,000 votes there, whereas Donald Trump got 426,000 votes. And even Harris does slightly better than last time as well in the county. So overall, some of her turnout in some places are higher just because you have new voters that are coming into the, basically new voters that are voting 4 years down the line. That is going to make quite a bit of a difference here. We can see Harris County was about a 6-point win here. It is only a 3-point win in this matchup, with Vance only behind by like 50,000 votes in the county. He ends up doing slightly worse than Donald Trump in Harris County, but you see Kamala Harris actually does quite significantly worse there. Fort Bend ends up flipping to Vance, even getting about 151,000 votes there. So the turnout does go down for both of the candidates there. And we can even see, like in some of these Hispanic counties, for example, Webb is a 6-point win in this election. Trump only won it by 2 points here. Dimmitt County, he actually ends up flipping it by 0.9%. It's basically like a point flip, and he flips it by like 20 votes. That is a 4-point shift from the last election, and both of them, the turnout there goes down significantly. Hidalgo is like a 5.5-point win there. He ends up winning it here by only 3. Willis County, only like a 3-point margin there. Here it's a 9-point margin. He ends up doing significantly better. He does like a couple hundred votes better than Trump did in that county, and Harris basically stays about the same. Cameron County, 6-point margin there. He's winning it by 9 points. Starr County, this one's fascinating. He's winning this one by about 15 here. Here he's winning it by 21. So Vance ends up gaining votes there. Well, actually, no, he doesn't end up gaining votes. He actually does worse. Satapa County, these Hispanic border counties that Trump has been massively improving in, Vance basically continues to gain in these counties. And even he does significantly better in some of these places. Nueces County, 11-point margin for Trump there. And we can even see here the turnout goes down, but Vance still holds a strong margin. Williamson County, Trump did win it by like 2 points, but Vance expands on the margin again, actually getting more votes there. Dallas, Vance even cracks 300,000 votes in Dallas County, which is, again, slightly worse than Trump there. But Harris also drops off even more than she did last time. So again, that's really interesting. I guess in a lot of the Hispanic counties, Vance's turnout does go down, but Harris's also goes down as well. But overall, the border counties, some of the rural margins continue to push Vance to the right. And then in the state of Florida, you see a 13.6 percentage point win in the state. So very similar to 2024, because Trump won it by about 13.1. So the map isn't entirely different from the last cycle. It's really not that different at all. When you really look at it, the only difference I think on the map here, if we were to actually pull up the county map for Florida, I actually see like St. Louis, you see he wins it by about 9 points here. He's actually doing slightly worse than Trump here. He only wins St. Louis by 7 points. So that's where you kind of see a reversion, and Harris does better there. He basically holds the same vote total that Trump does. He even performs like 4,000 votes better, but Harris gains in that county, 7,000 votes from the last election. In Pinellas, he's winning it by 6 points, which is like a point improvement from Trump's performance in the county. He actually does like a couple thousand votes better there. So does Harris. Hillsborough, you see he wins it by 3 points. He's winning it by almost 6 in this one. He's even been winning Osceola by 4.5 points. And he's cracking 80,000 votes there. They both end up doing worse in turnout there. Orange County, the same thing. Vance is like basically doing slightly better than Trump in Orange County, but Harris is, again, just a little bit better than last time. Seminole County, 4.5 points. Duval is interesting because Trump actually won it by, give or take like 1.5 points, and it's basically the same as the last time. It's basically the same. Harris does like 3,000 votes better there, and Vance does like 5,000 votes better. So he does slightly better than Trump and Duval overall, which is really, really interesting. And he even improves in like Leon and Alaska. I think it's a lot of these like rural counties where he ends up doing like a little bit worse. He even flips Palm Beach County and he cracks about 400,000 votes there. Miami-Dade, he isn't even cracking what Trump got, but Harris is just doing way worse than she even did in 2024 there, which is why the turnout is like so abysmal for her there. Sarasota is interesting because he only wins it by 15 in Sarasota because Harris's turnout does get a little bit, it's basically about the same, but Vance's turnout goes down from Trump. So overall, a similar performance in Florida from 2024, but he does improve very slightly, mostly because of the Miami-Dade area. That's really why he's improving that much in the state. Now, looking at some of the safe states, California, Oregon, Washington, those are in the plus 12 column here. We can clearly see, Maryland, Delaware, DC, Massachusetts, and Vermont, including Maine's 1st congressional district, and Hawaii will all be in the plus 12 column for Harris. Now, what's really interesting is like Vermont shifts 2 points right, Massachusetts actually shifts left. And Rhode Island is about the same from the last election. Maryland is basically the same. Delaware is actually more Democrat than the last election. But what you'll see here, and even like Colorado, it basically shifts like 0.1 percentage points to the left. But the biggest shift out of all of the blue states, because even Washington and Oregon actually shift left because of the white college vote moving to the Democrats, California continues its rightward Republican shift. It shifts to the right by 4 percentage points from the last election. And we're going to compare the county maps because it is actually really interesting to see why these gains are happening. So the reason why Vance gains 4 points from the last performance is you see Harris didn't even crack over 50% or 60% in the state. And you could see Imperial County, Trump won it by like less than a point. Vance wins it with about 25,000 votes, but Harris goes all the way down to 22,000, and he's winning it by 5.5 points. So the like 95% Hispanic county, Vance is doing like even better there than like Trump did. And like even like San Bernardino, I mean, Trump won it by just barely like 2 points, and he's like killing it there. He's doing almost 400,000 votes in that county. Harris is doing a little bit worse. Inyo County, he's winning that by 8.5. Here, Trump only won it by 3 points, and he's cracking like 4,600 there. And you even see like, for example, Orange County, Harris won it by 3 points. He ends up picking it off by like 1.8%, and Harris actually does a lot worse in this county. She ends up dropping like over almost 100,000 votes there. That's really bad. And then in Los Angeles, which is the craziest part of all of this, you see Los Angeles is a minus 29. So basically Harris plus 29. Harris won this county by basically 32 points. She got 2.4 million votes in this county. She is not even cracking 2 million votes here. She loses like almost 500,000 votes, close to that. And Vance is basically not even doing as good as Trump in LA. He actually does like 100,000 votes worse than Trump. So it's not that Vance is getting these amazing numbers. It's Harris is just continuing to tank the Democratic base in California. Even like San Francisco, she gets about like 300,000 votes there. In the last election, she got 323,000. So she's doing worse. And Vance actually does better than Trump in San Francisco, funny enough. We see like, for example, San Bernardino County, Harris wins it by 13. Here, Vance is like literally, you could see he's only losing it by 7. So the margin is like almost cut in half there. Ventura County is like Harris plus 15. Here, it's like Harris plus 12. Fresno County, Vance plus 8. Like, and Trump's winning it by 4 there. So and Vance's turnout is like way higher than Trump's in Fresno County. So overall, he's killing it in these places. I mean, he wins this county by 3 points now. He's winning Trinity by 10 points. So he improves, or basically about the same actually. But like Lake County, Trump won it by 2 points. Here, he's winning it by almost 5 points, guys. Almost a 5-point margin. So he's expanding the Trump coalition by doing better in the city areas and better in these rural areas in California, and is posting like insane numbers in these places. So that's why he gains like 4 points in California from the last matchup. And again, we can go back to the election and you'll see that, you know, clearly this is shaping up. But looking at the likely Republican states, there only is 3. There's Maine second, Ohio, and Arizona. Ohio, I mean, it's like roughly the same. There's not really a lot to look at in Ohio. It's basically a likely margin for Vance. He continues to improve in the eastern areas. Some of the city areas end up getting a little bit more Democratic. Like you could argue that that's the case, but really the map's going to look really similar. It's not that different. You can see, you know, Harris plus 1.2. Harris wins it by literally 1.5. It's the same thing. I mean, Harris plus 11 in Athens County. Here you see Harris is winning it by 6. But in like, you know, like for example, Franklin County, Harris won it by, she won it here by like 29. She's actually doing a lot. She's here's the thing. She's actually doing better in Franklin than the last one. And then Vance is doing a lot better than Trump. So they both gained votes. Summit County, Harris plus like 8 here or 7. And you see same thing. It's basically the same thing. They both pretty much gained votes here. Like there's really not that much of a difference. Lorain County, you know, it's like Trump plus 5. Here it's like Harris, Trump plus, or Vance plus 4. Like, it's not really that different. He actually, I think he does better in Ohio. Well, no, actually, I think he's doing slightly worse in Ohio. It's like a half a point shift to the left. It's mostly because some of the rural areas, you just don't see the same turnout. Like Putnam, Vance plus 71. I guarantee, yeah, look, Trump's killing it there. But the problem is that, you know, Vance is like basically getting like couple hundred votes less in that county. So is Harris. But because his rural turnout is not the same as the last election, it's like making the state margin like ever so slightly closer. But it's not really going to doom him like whatsoever in that area there. Now, if we go ahead and continue and go back, you know, we'll see that Arizona, really the only county that matters in Arizona for the most part when it comes to presidential elections is Maricopa, and Trump won it by 3 points here, okay? Vance is winning it by 8.5 points. And this is mostly because of the Hispanic shift towards him still. And he's winning Pima and Santa Cruz by like 13, okay? Harris won Santa Cruz by like almost 20 and Pima by like, you know, 14, 15. Vance is basically cracking like 10,000 votes more than Trump is, but Harris completely falls in Maricopa. So it's not really that Vance is doing a lot better than Trump there. It's just that Harris completely tanks in Maricopa County. That's really what happens. You can see like Coconut County, Apache County, like they're closer. They're like, you know, 4 points closer each. They're basically the same. And some of the Arizona rural areas do get a lot redder, and that's why it ends up being like an 8.5, almost 9 point win for Vance. So it's basically not even a swing state in this election. It's like not even a swing state anymore at all. It's literally not even a swing state. Looking at the likely states for Harris, I mean, Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota. And yes, Minnesota is now in the likely column. It was not likely in the last election, but it actually shifts left to Harris in this one. But Illinois moves right. You can see New York and Connecticut are also in this likely Democrat column, and Rhode Island should have been safe a long time ago. In New York, it's literally like a point shift. I mean, there's not really a lot to look at there. It's literally a point shift to the right. It basically stagnates from 2024. Illinois, it's like a 3-point shift there. I mean, Cook County, Harris got like 1.2 million votes there. I mean, if we go to Illinois and we look at like Cook County, I mean, Harris got 1.4 million and Vance is getting like 553,000 votes. That's literally basically 330,000 votes less than what Trump got. But Harris continues to fall in these blue city areas, and that's why you get the margins that you get in those counties there. So, again, that's why the state ends up getting a little bit closer. Colorado, it's basically stagnant. Some areas move left, some move right, but it basically ends up being the same margin anyway. And so you end up now getting the swing states for the election, and there's quite a few of them. But at least for the lean Republican states, you got Georgia and North Carolina once again, and Nevada. So those are the kind of lean Republican margins, and you see that Vance improves in every single one of them. Vance improves in North Carolina by like 0.4%. You can see at the presidential level, if we were to go to North Carolina, Trump is getting about 2.8 million votes there, almost 2.9 million. Vance is getting about 2.8. give or take, and Harris is getting like 2.6. She got 2.7 in the last election. So North Carolina's turnout goes down from 2024. Georgia, you can clearly see, this is what's really interesting. Okay, in Georgia, what ends up happening is you actually see some of the suburban counties actually end up shifting into Vance's column. So like the areas where like Vance was, you see Fayette County, okay? Vance is winning it by, Trump is winning it by 3 here, and you see Vance wins it by 2. So it's like a slight improvement for Harris. They both do slightly worse in Georgia. You can clearly see that Trump, Vance is getting 2.2 million votes there. Trump got 2.6 million. So Vance is doing quite significantly worse. But Harris only gets 2 million in Georgia. So she drops off like 500,000 votes from 2024. So that's like ridiculously bad. I mean, it is. It is really bad. And when you look at the county map, it's like roughly the same. It's not really that different. You really don't see that much of a difference in the counties. I would say like, Summer County has a 2-point margin there. It's like really, really tight. There's literally like no flips in Georgia at all. It's basically the same state. It gets like a little bit redder. And like Cobb County, you can see 15 points, 14 here. It's 16 for Harris. So Harris actually does better in some of these areas, like slightly better, like basically the same margin here. Gwinnett County there, that's like a 17-point margin. Here it's like 16 and a half. Rockdale, 46 points. You see, once again, to Cobb, 72 to 27. It's basically the same. It's basically the same thing as last time. And you see Vance does worse, but Harris also does worse. So they kind of cancel out. See, Vance is getting 121,000 votes and fallen, but Harris is also dropping off quite considerably in some of these areas. Like she's dropping off in a lot of them. Like it's very obvious. Now, like in some of the outer suburbs, she's not. In some of the outer suburbs, she does slightly better in margin wise, but that's about it. It's basically the same state. There's like a wash here and there in certain directions, but really it's the same state. And then in Nevada, really the only major thing in Nevada is that Clark and Washoe end up flipping to Vance. Vance ends up getting 478,000 votes there. And if we go to, the results, you can clearly see that, Vance is getting, roughly give or take a little bit less votes than Trump did. But again, Harris is dropping off from 2024 quite considerably. Washoe County, the same thing. I mean, Vance gets 127,000, which is basically the same as Trump, but Harris drops off like 7,000 votes. So it's not really that Vance is like doing like amazingly well. It's just Harris's turnout is dropping off from 2024 in some places. Like that's basically what's happening. Then you see New Mexico, which gets like a point closer, Virginia, New Jersey, which is in the same category. It's literally like a 0.2 percentage point difference, like 0.1. Like literally the state is like not even changed. Passaic still votes. You see some counties move left, some move right. It basically is the same state. Same thing as Virginia. And New Hampshire, I mean, it's literally a 2.3 percentage point margin. That's like a half point shift to the right. Same thing in like Maine. Maine, it's 5.8. Last time it was 6.9. It's like a point difference. Nebraska's second congressional district, you could argue is actually still like a 5.5 point win. So it shifts a little bit to the left, but not as much. And then once again, you have the Rust Belt states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania that are all under 2 points, and they all vote for Vance, which gives them 312 electoral college votes. You can actually see that Vance underperforms in Pennsylvania, but he does better in Wisconsin and Michigan. And this is because I honestly believe the only reason why Trump did better in Pennsylvania than the other two is because of the assassination attempt. If it wasn't for that, he would do better in Michigan in 2024. So Vance improves like by 0.2% in Wisconsin. In like Michigan, he does 0.3% better. In Pennsylvania, he does a little bit worse. It's like a 0.1 percentage point difference. It's like barely any difference at all. And if we look at the county maps here, I mean, you'll clearly see what I'm talking about. Let's look at Wisconsin first. When you look at Wisconsin, I mean, you'll clearly see right away, like Door County, it's literally the same thing. It gets slightly closer. Winnebago, I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's Vance +3. Trump won that county by +5. That county was Trump +10, 8.7. Brown, Vance +6. Here was Trump +7. Ozaukee County was Trump +11. He's only winning it basically the same. It's like the same thing. It's literally the same margin as before. It's the same exact thing. They both do like a little bit better there. You can see in Milwaukee, though, Harris is winning that by 38. And I mean, she's winning it by 37 here. It's basically the same thing. It's like really not even that different. She actually does like 1,000 votes better there. If anything, Vance is the one that catches up. Dane County is like Harris plus basically 52. Here it's Harris plus 50 because Vance underperform. Actually, does he underperform? No, he does 10,000 votes better. Harris ends up doing like a couple thousand votes better too. But then you see like Greene County ends up flipping to Vance. He flips that one and he does, you know, basically over 10,000 there, just like Trump did. And Harris performs slightly worse, I guess. You see like Iowa County gets a lot closer. La Crosse County is basically the same. It's like a 9-point victory here. He basically, you know, like a 6-point win there. Eau Claire County is like an 8-point win for Harris there. Here was 11. Portage County, he ends up flipping that one by 4. So that one he does flip, and he gets this county a lot closer. Trump got 300 votes there. Vance gets like 231. And then UC Bayfield is like Harris plus, 12 here, I guess. And it's 10.5 here. Like it's basically the same. Ashland gets like a little bit closer and Douglas gets considerably closer. So there are some areas that shift left, some shift to the right. Like a lot of the rural areas basically stay the same. And Racine and Kenosha actually get closer though. These areas do end up narrowing up a tiny bit, like these do. And so does Ozaukee, like barely. But the state is basically a wash from 2024. Detroit is interesting because, I mean, if you look at Detroit, this is an area where Harris lost a lot of ground and is going to continue to lose ground. Harris got 537,000 votes there. here, she's getting 521. And Vance is actually doing better than Trump by like a couple thousand. Macomb, he's winning that by 15. So he's improving there by like a point. And you even see like, Grand Traverse, he hasn't lost that yet. It's basically the same margin as the last election. Muskegon, it's like basically more Republican than before. And Ken and Ganese end up getting a little bit closer. They actually end up getting more competitive for Vance. So he does better in Michigan overall. And then in Pennsylvania, this is what's really fascinating to me. So this is what's really interesting about Pennsylvania here. Because Vance actually, so Center County was like about, give or take, a 3,000 vote win for Harris. He actually wins it here. And again, they both increase in their votes, but Vance gets more. And this is because he improves with the younger vote nationwide. And even like Bucks County, Vance flips that even more than like Trump did. Northampton is actually like slightly closer than what it was in 2024. So like Vance does like a little bit worse there margin wise. Monroe actually flips back to Harris. So Harris flips back Monroe County. So she flips back that one. And like Lehigh is like way closer though. But Lehigh is way closer. It's like basically a tie. And Lackawanna ends up getting, actually it's slightly more Democratic than before. But like Dauphin County, is slightly more Democratic. But then like Philadelphia, like look at that. Trump at 100, or Vance at 154,000 votes. Trump got 144,000. Harris is basically sitting at like 15,000 votes less in Philadelphia. So that 30,000 vote shift in Philadelphia from 2024 facilitates the losses in other places where Vance loses. Now, granted, like even Cumberland County, that's a 9-point win for Vance. Here, Vance is only winning it by 8. And like Allegheny, he even does better. Like, well, actually, Trump is technically doing worse here, believe it or not. Because Vance and Trump get like basically the same amount of votes. Vance actually does better in Allegheny, and Harris turnout goes a little bit higher. But yeah, so Vance loses Monroe. And then what's very interesting is that he loses Erie County by like half a point. He loses Erie County by like half a point, but still wins the state. Like he still wins it because Philadelphia shifts right, and like Center County, some of the rural areas probably do. It's mostly some suburban shifts that are causing that to happen. But other than that, he's basically winning the Rust Belt, and he's winning Georgia, North Carolina, and Nevada. And even though Harris does a little bit better in like Minnesota, a little bit better in Colorado, like some parts of the Northeast, she's like, she does a little bit better in some places, but then she underperforms like massively in like Texas, in New Mexico, she loses a point. She does really bad in Arizona, really bad in California. So it's just the reason why the map is not that different is because you're basically running the same Democratic candidate with the vice president of the same Republican ticket. And unless there's like a mass event that happens, or like no taxes on tips takes into effect, or like mass deportations are actually carried out, like unless there are big policy movements made by the administration that are successful, you're not going to see like a really big difference in the results. Now, if you were to put like Pete Buttigieg or somebody like that as the nominee, then you would probably see a big difference electorally. Like you would see a really big difference in some of these places. Like you'd see Vance do a lot better in Georgia or a lot better in North Carolina, but do a lot worse in Colorado and Virginia, for example, and probably do better in the Rust Belt. Like the map would look different, but because you're running similar tickets and you're running JD Vance, you're going to have some voters that voted for Trump that are not going to vote for Vance, and you're going to have some voters who voted for Harris that are going to vote for JD. Like that's just how it goes. Or you have some people who don't vote, and then you have new voters, and so it's basically a wash election. But overall, Vance does a little bit better than Trump. nationwide, he performed slightly better than Trump does percentage-wise. I think he doesn't get the same raw vote totals, but he ends up doing basically the same electoral college performance, and he pretty much improves in most of the swing states except for Wisconsin and Michigan. Those are well, actually, he does improve in those. The only swing state he basically doesn't improve in is actually Pennsylvania, which is really interesting. But that is basically it for this in-depth analysis of the election. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe. And if you want more videos detailing different matchups like this, please go ahead and leave a comment down below. I will see you guys in the next video.